YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look what we've got here. This is the Cherokee 1.3. This is a V2. There used to be a red one. I really, really like this plane. And it's just a basic general aviation. I love the way it went together. It's an easy to build plane. It's an easier to fly plane. Beautiful LEDs. And it flies on 3 or 4S. And yes, you get all the features you like. I am flying it today on 2200 4S. This will be like second thoughts for us, Gen 2 pack. You can easily fly this on 3S or 4S, but I do prefer flying on 3S. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take off, let the sun hit the hill, and then get ready to go. Now, if you didn't already know, this also has thrust reverse, which is really nice, so that you can taxi around wherever you need. We're gonna back taxi and get off the ground right now. Beautiful ground handling. Takeoff flaps deployed. There we are. In the air, that was about 30% on the sticks, and absolutely gorgeous up in the air. We definitely have a little bit of turbulence as we're transitioning into evening. Look at that over the top of the trees. Mm-hmm. About 10% throttle here. Look at that, turbulence there. A lot of rotor right over the top of the trees. And just barely flying it. I mean, it just doesn't take much. Man, did you see how much he got blown up there?
Yeah.
That was not me, by the way. That was just the plane. And even with AS3X and safe, you still got to fly the plane, but I just love the way the dihedral makes this thing fly. It's so easy to fly. It's very responsive if you want it to be, and it's very tame if you'd like it to be. And yet, she'll still do crazy aerobatic stuff like this. But again, I don't really fly my Cherokee like I stole it because I just don't like the way that it looks. And camera crew and I are actually gonna go back over here so we can get a different vantage point today. Now, the reason we're getting a different vantage point is as the sun sets later and later, we're really able to take advantage. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Look at that turbulence right there. That's so crazy. AS3X keeping it very controllable, but there's definitely some level of sacrifice in terms of the performance when you get into those wind pockets. And right around trees, there's rotor. It's a big turbulation of the wind. And it may look nice and strong. Look at those lights, guys. That's one of the reasons why I love this plane. Just absolutely easy to see, and you can fly this thing right over the damn runway if it existed, which it doesn't yet.
Not yet.
Do you hear that?
What is that?
That bird?
Yeah.
That cooing?
Yeah.
It's hilarious. So guys, there's nothing I love more, right overhead this time. There's nothing I more love than coming home from a long, difficult, or annoying day and just flying a gentle, relaxing flight. Look at those lights. Really help to distinguish when you go with that silhouette, guys. Absolutely love the effect. Take off flaps now. We're gonna do a tight turn, a lot of rudder, hard on the throttle there, just for a second so we can hug the ground. That's where we lost the EC 1500 the other day. As you can see, they don't normally do those aerobatic maneuvers on this. Now, if you didn't know, this plane also has safe, and it does come equipped with that in the bind and fly basic. And so if you need a little bit extra help, but you still want to fly a plane like this, no problem. I'm going to turn on safe now. Here's safe. So what safe does, sensor-aided flight envelope, or sensor-assisted flight envelope, it's going to automatically level the plane when you let go of the sticks. Now, I got a little bit of throttle in there right now. So as you can see, it just goes along without too much regard. And then as soon as you let go of the sticks, instead of tipping over, it just tips right back level and it just keeps flying along. That's what safe is. And that's a very helpful tool for anybody who's just learning to fly. Just the other day, I had a friend over and I put him on the simulator and I said, fly this Draco 2 meter. And of course, the Draco 2 meter on the simulator especially flies really easy. Mm-hmm. And he immediately started crashing. And I'm like, oh, wow. Strange how it's actually much harder than you realize. Except I already knew that. As soon as I turned safe on, he was able to accomplish landings, takeoffs, all that stuff. And I said, safe is the difference for many pilots. I'm still in safe, a little bit of throttle. That's the one place you got to watch out for, because with safe, you're going to have limited bank angles, and that includes both pitch and roll. So I can't go any steeper than that. Okay, so I can't go any steeper than that. It's pretty steep though, look at that. Okay, now full up elevator, that's as steep as I can go. And then that's as steep down as I can go. Now you can also change those settings if you want. Now I'm gonna come out of safe and I'll bring it back and give you a tip all the way to the left. Okay, so all the way to the left, all the way to the right. I might've done that backward, guys. Okay, now out of safe. Now I'm in AS3X, so I can fly it upside down, and it does just fine. Even with the dihedral, very controllable, limited elevator needed to keep the thing level. So let's actually try a touch and go. We're probably not gonna get a landing right now because I'm not actually trying to land. But you can see right here, very turbulent there, and yet very flyable, guys. Look at this, look at this. Didn't even think I'd get the touch and go. But I ended up getting the landing instead. That's the difference between thrust reverse and not. Okay, so it doesn't always have to be dead calm to enjoy a nice flight. And then also, I just want to point out the fact that with this telemetry, you can see roughly exactly how much time you have left. And I'm going to say roughly exactly. It depends on how hard you're flying it. Now, forward thrust, let's do a STOL takeoff. We have a 47-foot wide approach here, okay? And then that's a 15-foot turnaround. We got a good deal from the concrete guy. Timer's going for 6 minutes right now, so we're actually more like 25 feet here, okay? So a little bit of throttle, and in the air, no problem. So that would be like a basketball court, you know, would be no problem. You'd be like a half court. And absolutely just love flying this. Full landing flaps on the tight turns. Keep that thing airborne, slow it down a little bit. Use the rudder. It's gonna help coordinate your turns for you. This thing almost automatically coordinates just because of that high dihedral angle. And then beautiful blue skies tonight. Looks just like the real one. I actually saw one the other day when I was working at the airport for some of my scale work. And I saw a Cherokee and it looked just like this. So very cool. And I just love when I can bring these planes in no time and land them. Look at this base leg. I mean, like I have to yaw it in, and then I almost made the runway. Now, I probably wouldn't have been able to slow down in time even with thrust reverse there. Now out of the flaps altogether, and you can see it widens up the turn just a little bit. There's our critically low alarm. So what I'm gonna do is get out of the throttle immediately, let it glide. We got tons of glide ratio on this. A little bit of slip there. You just don't wanna hit that cherry tree. A little bit of slip, a little bit of slip. Avoiding the UPS stick, and then thrust reverse. Oh, wow. Okay, so I guess we're gonna get out of the thrust reverse. That was one heck of a bounce and go. I did not mean to do that, guys. Okay, so we're back into takeoff flaps. We're gonna go out just a little bit further, try to get the angle lined up. Oh yeah, way better. Trying to get away from the turbulation over the top of the cherry. Just point that nose down, keep it flying. Much better on the line today, okay. There we go. And full thrust reverse, slow it down right away. Love flying this plane, guys. One of my favorites. And you can pretty much turn around almost on a dime, especially when you got a little bit of headwind because it kind of leans it back. Look at that, guys. Didn't even take up any room. Now you can see we're dead, so I'm gonna take off again. So one of the reasons I love telemetry is so that I can ignore it. Okay, we're in the air. Up in the air. We're gonna do a nice efficiency takeoff and efficiency landing, full landing flaps, a little bit of slip, about a 10% slip. That's just contrary rudder to ailerons. And there you go. And then just a little bit of thrust reverse because I don't wanna waste too much energy because you know what I'm about to do. And that is take back off again. Now I'm sort of about 90 degrees crosswind. Now I'm like right into the wind. So I'm gonna take off this way this time. Look at this, guys. Absolutely love it. And that's one of the reasons why 4S is so much fun on this plane, because what happens is you can squeeze every last drop out of that beautiful 2200 4S. And so we're gonna end up with like a 12, 13 minute flight, a little bit of downtime, obviously. Okay, over the top of the trees. They're actually a little bit to our left. And then a slip, 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 slip. Get that altitude down. A little bit of throttle, a little bit of throttle, a little bit of throttle, and bring it in. and then slow it down. Guys, you can land it in such a short runway. In fact, I'm curious if I can do it on the 30, I said 47, but I meant 37 feet. So we're gonna do 37 feet approach next. Forward thrust takeoff flaps. We're gonna do an efficiency takeoff, about 50% throttle, roll out of the grass, get that thing flying, not wasting any energy at all, just a little bit of elevator to keep our altitude. No need to get too high in the sky because we got beautiful shots of the clear windows. Okay, so here we go. So there's our landing flaps. We're just gonna glide it in. About 10% throttle, the tractor of the prop. And then we'll just flare at the last second. Nice little bounce in. And that's where you're gonna suck juice, guys, is when you're doing thrust reverse. So make sure you are prepared to take off again. So here we go. So now, guys, did you hear my critically low alarm? I hope you did, because I sure did. And you wanna know what's interesting about critically low alarms? Is that sometimes they cry wolf. And you have to admit, you know, if you can keep the throttle below 30%, you're not gonna sag that pack very much. And then so long as you just save that burst of energy for an emergency situation, you can really stretch the life out. Look at this, keep that nose down a little bit, keep that nose down, fly to the ground, ground effect, whoa, there we go. And just slow it down. And there it is, guys. Nice, big, hefty crosswinds. It doesn't look like much. You can see our angle now because the windsock is lined up just like this. So we're about somewhere between 30 and 45 degrees on crosswind, and this thing just handles it like nothing. Okay, so obviously our battery is not dead yet, so we're gonna go ahead and take off some more. We'll do a little bit different angle this time. Kind of forced up the nose just to avoid hitting the grass for cool reasons. Oh man, what a gorgeous view. So this would be like flying on 2S now. Oh, look at that, you can see through the windows. I love that, so absolutely fantastic. And as we stretch out this flight, we get into more calm, but still not very laminar wind. Okay, watching for the UPS stick, okay? And then just a little bit of flare and a little bit of thrust reverse, little wiggle. The wiggle's kind of nice because it will help you to bleed off some of the speed, but you don't need to bleed off speed in most conditions. I just fly off of a short runway. Okay, full landing flaps this time. We'll try STOL takeoff. There's our critically low. See what happens, guys? Stay light and nimble on the controls so that you don't waste a lot of energy. Let the plane just fly, so long as it's not gonna hit the house or whatever buildings are around, okay? And so even light on the sticks, we're like sub 50% on our throttle. Watch this, let's see if we can do a loop, even at 50% throttle. Let's maybe cheat just a little bit just to get started. I'm gonna just go up in a nice big loop, keeping it level. Now I'm gonna trade off some airspeed for elevation, little burst, and there we are. Still efficiency flight mode, very reserved, very calm. And we'll just bring it over the tree tops. Remember, I wanna avoid that cherry. As soon as that cherry gets those leaves on it, it'll be no problem at all, and a beautiful, beautiful tree for us. There we go. And a little thrust reverse just to slow it down. I do notice this likes to kind of do a walk to the right. Now what's happening is I think as we lose the airspeed, the rudder loses its effectiveness, and then we have to transition to the nose gear, which is very light because of the thrust reverse, and then the plane wind vanes. And that wind starts kicking up right about here, okay? Because it goes up this hill and it gets blocked a little bit, and then it just goes crosswind on the runway, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and thrust reverse back, bring it back, whoop, see what I'm talking about? See how light that nose gear gets? You can try with your elevator, but I found that it's very difficult to do. Okay, so I'm gonna come back here. We'll try a 37-foot approach and then a 37-foot landing. You think we can do it?
Takeoff for sure, yeah.
Okay, forward thrust, takeoff flaps only. Oh yeah. That was not in the grass, it was just flying over them, the grass blades. Oh, is that a paramotor?
Oh,
no, no way. Yeah, way too windy tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're trying to do a 37-foot landing here. Okay, so I'm gonna have to bring it in, full landing flaps, get my setup good. I wanna get into the laminar wind if I can find it. A little bit of slip. I wanna use up my energy. Oh, dang it, I cheated. And that was critically low alarm. As you can see, we're getting pretty low now. So I'm gonna just scroll over. Any guesses on the time? 8 minutes and 15, 16 past 6. I think we should do one more sorties. Okay, so takeoff flaps are shut off. We're just gonna back taxi just a little bit, and then we're gonna give her heck right here. Don't wanna waste any energy. As you can see, these planes, this is the way I remember when we first started flying, the type of power we got, okay? Now it's like balls to the walls. Every plane is just so powerful. And I gotta say, it is really fun to see how long you can fly these planes. I'm gonna go up just for visibility reasons, and then full landing flaps, about 10% throttle, 8% throttle, 5% throttle. Getting into ground effect, it really wants to fight me there. And then look at this. We're not even gonna land, guys. You guys see how greasy and smooth this is? Now it's really gonna be low because you can hear it pulsing now. About 50% throttle, but just very little power coming out of it. Takeoff flaps, now full landing flaps rather. We'll slow it down. A little bit of a slip at level, which is unusual for me, right over the top of the Cherry. And then we're gonna just bring it in. And just a little teeny bit. I don't even need thrust reverse, guys. No. What an awesome plane. Now, if you guys think that's lame, it's because you're not huge on general aviation. And I gotta say, I really appreciate the way this plane looks. Hold on, let's spin that prop just a little bit for you. We gotta spin the prop, even though we're wasting battery. I gotta say, it's one of my favorite planes. I love coming out and flying this thing. And you guys know I'm a sucker for like the Carbon Z Cub, the Carbon Z T28, the Carbon Z Cessna 150T, which is a mouthful to say, by the way. But I just gotta say, this plane is just, it gives me such good vibes. I love flying it. You get it in the air. It's just very easy to control, even without perfect laminar wind in the skies. What I really like it is when it's dead calm and you can come in and just grease those things and stay on the mains all the way down the runway, because it's just that easy to fly. So, if you guys enjoy the experience of general aviation flight, and you just want to be in command and control of it, and maybe you're not a regular everyday RC flyer. Oh, and by the way, that was about 3 minutes and 44 since I started doing that. Left on 6. So I would say that was close to 20 minutes of actual flight time. A little bit up, a little bit of down, maybe more like 18.
16. We're at 17 and a half on video right now.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So I don't know how that timer worked out. I must have done some mathematical errors. It was 6 plus 8. Would have been 14 plus 2 more.
Yeah.
So let's call it 15 minutes conservatively of flight time.
Yep.
That's a lot of flight time. This is not a super small plane, folks. It's 1,300 millimeters. And 2200 4S does the job all day long. Now, you could easily fly this on 2200 3S. I just like that I can really stretch the end of that cycle. And plus then the thrust reverse is really punchy on landings. So beautiful night calls for a beautiful flight. But even though it's beautiful looking, the wind is deceivingly confused.
Yeah.
And we've run into this before. In fact, we filmed a video here a couple of weeks ago, and we were rushing back over. We had a bunch of stuff we had to move out of our basement so we can make room for a construction project that's now like 95% done. And so it's very nice to have that done, by the way. But we were moving planes, and I said, let's go fly. It's calm. It had been really windy all day, and we went ahead and try to take advantage. And then we got into this, you know, confused wind. And boy, I tell you what, there's nothing that'll ruin a flight than have a nasty wind. Well, I'll tell you what, the Cherokee holds up beautifully to it. And so if you're looking for a plane that's gonna give you that just relaxing, I need something to get me out of this terrible day mode, look no further than this. You're gonna love it. 1.3 meter. It's gonna get you taken care of. The Cherokee from E-flite. Very good plane. It's gonna get you in the air. It's not gonna be some really stressful activity. Now, of course, you can flip it upside down and do it in inverted tail drags if you want. I'm not gonna do that. Even if I could, I wouldn't. But the plane can handle it if you want to. Now, you're gonna blow through a lot more batteries if you do that. And speaking of blowing through batteries, it's a little tempting to put another battery in and keep flying. But I gotta say, sometimes when I fly, I like to fly until the civil twilight is almost over, because I almost feel like I can see better. Once the sun goes down, we've got this beautiful purple and pink, and I just love it. Like over here, you can see right now that purple and pink, and it just makes these planes pop, which is so cool. And we get, of course, the golden hour for filming, and we try to take advantage. And as we transition from winter to not quite winter, which is normally known as spring, but we haven't gotten one yet because we get blizzards every other third day, I look forward to these long evenings of beautiful sunset. And that's one of the reasons why we're here right now, because I love flying these planes, but you gotta have a place to do it. And so we're fortunate and blessed to be where we are. Now, also, the pond is gonna become a thing very soon. I know you guys have been hearing us for months blathering about it. Trust me, it's killing me that it's not done. But when you get weathered out, sometimes you just have to make the right decisions for big, important, crucial engineering decisions, which I was like, just go dig it anyway. But he was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to give you a free dam.
Yeah.
Because if you dig a dam and you can't compress the dirt and you don't have water for it and it's too dry and just a variety of other factors and you've got frost to deal with, it gets really expensive for excavators to do it. So that's where we left it, and we are dying to get it done because I can't wait until we have another alternative for crosswind flights, because right now we have this and we have that, and they're about 35 degrees off of each other. And then we're gonna have this, which is gonna be almost exactly 90. It's gonna be more like 100 degrees off of our main strip. And it's also gonna allow us to extend this out, or not so much allow, but force us to extend it out so we have a connection point between the two. So it's gonna be really cool, and we can't wait to share the progress. It's gonna make flying these things really easy because it's so much longer runway, but you have to remember it is still pretty narrow.
Yeah.
So we can't wait to share it with you. And if you guys even remotely like the Cherokee 1.3, check it out from the links in the video description below. I love having the opportunity to share these planes that I enjoy. And it doesn't always have to be, some super fast jet that's super exciting, because sometimes the mood calls for something different. Maybe it's a Pitts 1.4. Or maybe it's a Rafale 80 millimeter. Or maybe it's an F-16 80 millimeter. Or maybe it's a Cherokee 1.3. Everybody is gonna have different tastes for different times and different reasons for why they wanna fly. And sometimes the conditions set the stage for what you get to pick from. And other times it's just what your mood is. And so that's one of the reasons why I really encourage you to have something like this around. It's gonna give you a perfect filler for a perfect sunset, And the other thing too is, we just flew this and had, let's call it a 20-minute experience that was very trouble-free. I literally stuck this into the charger port, put the battery in, and flew it. It was a very low energy output, and I still got a chance to fly. That's one of my favorite things about this plane. Easy to load the battery, easy to charge the battery, easy to put the stuff away when we're done. And it's just a couple of flips of the switch to select the plane we want. And it's like maybe all in a 30-minute experience. Now, I know for some of you, you're gonna have to drive to a flight field or maybe to the school or whatever it happens to be. And so it might be a little bit different in your experience, but I gotta say, one of my favorite reasons for flying these things is the energy consumption at the end of a draining day might be just a little bit too much.
Yep.
And with other choices.
And with the LEDs, it gives you those extra few minutes that you might not get with a plane that doesn't have.
And the three front-facing white lights are huge.
Yep.
When you drop down into these sticks, okay? Now, when we start having leaves and stuff like that, it actually shortens the sunset a little bit, but the trade-off is we're later in the year, so of course the orientation of the planet Earth to sun means that we have a little bit further over this way. And during the winter, it's over here. During the summer, it's over here, and we get longer sunsets. So the period of time that it's passing through the atmosphere allows for a lot more beautiful sunsets too. And then during winter, every once in a while we get a really beautiful sunset, but they're so short. They're like 15 minutes.
3:30 in the afternoon.
Well, it's not 3:30, but all joking aside, it's very early.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the reason why these lights are so handy. So now if you had the original Cherokee 1.3 that was red and white, it is a gorgeous plane. I still have it. I still love it. You can't pry that thing away from me because I love that plane. And the truth is they're both great planes. There's not been really a lot of changes, but they did go to the smart technology. They went to the 631 receiver. I think they might have had the 631 at the end on the red one. But either way, AS3X and safe, equipped, thrust reverse equipped. You know, they've got the slightly better Avian ESC, of course. You got thrust reverse, which is really nice. And then, of course, the telemetry is a little bit better, a little bit more robust. Pack voltage, all that stuff. So the thing is, I think it might be $1 or $2 more than what the red one was, but it's totally worth it. Now, if you're thinking of getting this as a plug-and fly, I wouldn't do that because the bind and flies that E-flite offers are almost always the best deal you can get. And so we don't talk about that hardly ever because dollars and cents are really just, they're always in flux. We try not to bring that into the equation because you guys all know what your financial situation is. But the truth is, I can tell you this is almost always true for almost every E-flite product. When you can get a bind and fly, it's almost always a really good value. Now, one exception to that might be if you're getting a balsa wood plane where you're buying like the Timber 2-meter SWS, which is the sport wood series. Yep. And so if you get that and you want to put in some like really high expensive stuff, then you could potentially do that. But the bind and fly is going to be the best value compared to the ARF, unless, like I said, you want to go really over the top with your electronics. And I don't think you need any more than what that bind and fly does. It's very good. But if you're very picky about that stuff, you might spend about the same, okay, or a little bit more, just to get into the servos. And then you got the receiver and the motor and the ESCs and all that good stuff. So very cool plane. I love it. I know you will too. If you want to help support Brian Phillips RC, I know you're probably thinking PayPal, Patreon. Obviously, you're going to ask the same questions. Those are, you know, monthly support or one-time gifts. And then we have YouTube Super Thanks, which is one-time gifts, and YouTube Members, which is another monthly option. But the truth is, and we say this all the time, and people probably think we're blowing smoke, the best way you can support us is watch the videos, smash the like button, costs you nothing. You get the benefit of watching the videos. And if you watch a whole video once in a while, I know we make long videos, that does help us. So, I mean, obviously you're not gonna do it all the time. You gotta get in there and get an answer quick because you're at the field, I get it. But every once in a while, watch the whole thing. But really buying these planes, batteries, transmitters, receivers, whatever it happens to be that we have in our videos helps us to support our partnerships with the different companies, brands, hobby shops, distributors, mom and pop shops, whoever we happen to be working with. And then it also helps us to keep that little ecosystem going. And so that's how we earn the commissions so that we can pay for what we need in this business. So it's really nice to be able to have you guys doing that. It's even nicer than just Patreon and PayPal and, you know, the one-time stuff. Those things warm our hearts, and a lot of you guys have poured gifts at us over the years, whether it be, you know, just like a screwdriver or some sort of a tool that I've griped that I didn't have, even though I probably had one in the basement. I was just too lazy to get it. Rick, if you're listening. And then also, you know, like food or, you know, stuff, because obviously I, you know, can't stand to miss a meal, obviously.
Yeah, you look like you're suffering.
It's wasting away.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate those things, but really at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is just live the dream with us, fly the planes that you see us reviewing, and you really do help put food on the table for the kids and all that. But I mean, we love this. I love this stuff. The camera crew tolerates it. And so we're very lucky that she's helping behind the camera. But if you want to help support us, just buy a plane you love. And if you don't love the Cherokee, I mean, it's probably not for everybody. I get it. All you have to do is check out brianphillipsrc.com, and you can sort by plane types and by manufacturer, distributor, whoever you happen to work with. And that way you can find what you're looking for real easy. And so if you're looking for something like this, you'd go to like general aviation, and then you would see a number of different aircraft that are going to be similar. Or maybe you want to see something a little bit faster, you want something more sporty, or you want something that's a warbird or something that's going to be an EDF jet. And there's a right plane for everybody at the right time, but it may not be for you right now. okay? So we understand that, and we try not to do this fastest, bestest, cheapest. That's just a gimmick waste of time for everybody. And that waste of time with a long video too. So the truth is, we want to help you guys make a decision when you're sorting through the plethora of choices in the World Wide Web. And we know that there's a million of them. So we're going to help you make good choices, we hope. And so if you did get some value out of this video, don't forget to smash the like button on the way out. And obviously the Cherokee 1.3 is available right now. I love this thing. It's a great plane. Batteries go in and out easy. It's cheap to battery. It's cheap to fly, which is really nice. And ultimately, it's one of my favorite. It's very easy flying, very easy to just have an enjoyable experience. And sometimes that's what I need when I get off of a terrible day at work. Or some sort of I don't want some big involved process, or like really riding the line where I'm like afraid I'm going to crash and end up with like an EC 1500 in million pieces, because that will tend to put a little bit of a hamper on your evening, I can say from experience.
Yeah.
So hopefully we answered all your questions about the Cherokee. And if you have more questions that we haven't answered, leave them in the comments below. We'll do our best to get to them as we see them. We used to do 100% of comments, but we read a vast majority of them, but we do not always reply because it's gotten almost impossible to keep up. So we don't want you guys to hear that wrong. And that is one of the things that happens with Patreon. If you end up being a Patreon supporter, we do get the comments. It's just the way that they come through, I see them. So it's a little easier for me to keep up with them. So, but even in the last couple of weeks, we've been so busy with a couple of these projects. Family's been sick, finally just getting back to normal. I've even been a little bit behind on that, and I got logged out of it for some stupid reason. So it's very weird. So I was missing a couple of things for a couple of days. So if you're one of those people, my apologies. All right, guys, that's all you get for tonight. We love doing this stuff. We love that you're here with us, supporting us, and we love flying. We love RC aviation. And I mentioned this in another video we did the other day, and you may have noticed that after the enforcement date for remote ID that just kicked in March 16th, of 2024, the sky has not fallen. The RC aviation industry has not come to a screeching halt. And that's amazing and really heartwarming. It's really not a big surprise either. The truth is they had changed the rule enough to really kind of take some of the biggest teeth out of it. It's still ridiculous, bloated monstrosity that needs to be shut down and totally dismantled. But, for now, it's not that big a deal. You get one tool, you put it in your tool bag, and if you see the lights flashing, maybe put it on. Get it going, or do something else, fly to Fria, whatever it is, or do whatever you were going to do anyway. At the end of the day, we don't care what you do. We just want to make sure that this hobby does well, it thrives, it survives, and it expands like it was before. Because the best way we can extend our middle fingers of support for the FAA is to keep flying and keep loving this thing, because there isn't really a more wholesome, enjoyable, difficult, rewarding, amazing hobby that I've ever been involved with than fixed wing RC aircraft. And I love helis and I love quads and all that stuff too, and boats and cars and trucks and all that. And I used to do trains too. I'm that big of a nerd. But the truth is, my favorite has and always probably will be fixed wing RC, third person viewpoint. I'm not big on FPV, as you guys know. Fixed wing aircraft. It's what I love. It's like what I do. So,
yep.
If you haven't connected the dots, that's what I do.
And if you're watching these videos thinking, I want to do this, but I'm nervous about the regulations and stuff, don't be nervous. Let that stop you.
Yeah,
that should not be your
It shouldn't even
factor.
really weigh into it.
No,
because if you go fly to field too, then there's going to be people that can help you navigate the waters. Yeah. It's really not that big a deal.
No.
We try not to give a lot of legal advice on this channel because we're not lawyers and we don't want to get sued by somebody being idiots. But the truth is, it's pretty easy to be compliant right now. And if you're flying in a FRIA, it's like really easy. So you pretty much just show up and fly there.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's definitely a can of worms we could talk about on this, but we're not going to do that tonight. So thanks for watching, guys. I love the Cherokee 1.3. It's one of my favorites. I'm still waiting for the Carbon Z Cherokee, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that, and for good reason, because there's actually been more Carbon Zs in the history of camera crew, if you didn't already know this.
Yeah, there's been other ones that aren't
around.
There's
been other ones that aren't around anymore. And so I would love to see a few more come out. And when they do, it's going to be amazing, because I can't wait to bring them to you here on this channel on Brian Foltz RC first. And so thanks guys for being with us. We hope we answered your questions. Have a nice one. So much more right around the corner.